guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, and I'm really excited because this is obviously going to be my first year doing it because this is my first year trying out a YouTube channel. Oh god, excuse my hair. Ever since I got it cut, I literally just woke up, but ever since I got it cut, it's been doing this like poof thing. And especially after I wash it, it just like poofs out, and I'm used to having my hair lay like super flat, so it's just, I have to get used to it. And anytime I see it like in a mirror or the camera, I'm like, can you chill? Let's just leave it there. Let's just go with that. Anyway, let's get into the first question. The first question is best book you've read so far in 2022. So normally I like to like physically hold the books in these videos, but there are just too many books to talk about to go start pulling them from my shelves, so I'm just gonna pop them up here and we can talk about them. So my best book of 2022, I kind of broke it down into categories because it was way too hard to pick a single one from the past 6 months. I would say probably the one that stuck with me the most and that I read back in January was Lore Olympus, the graphic novel. And it's a story about Hades and Persephone, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. And I cannot wait for the second volume to come out, although I have read, so it's a web comic or whatever, and I have read the entire second volume on webcomic, but I don't care because she does make changes every once in a while. I don't care. I want the physical book, and I'm gonna actually go back and reread volume 1 physically before getting volume 2 physically and reading that. So that one has stuck with me the most. It's just such a beautiful story. They touch on so many things that are so important to talk about, and it's just a great story, and it's fun, it's easy to read. I highly suggest to everybody. The next book is my favorite fantasy from this year, which was easily my hardest decision because I had a couple to pick from that I really liked. Dreams Lie Beneath was a runner-up. Year of the Reaper was a runner-up, but I ended up picking Only a Monster by Vanessa Len because that one has, again, just stuck with me longer than the others have. Like, I could tell you the entire plot line of that story, and to me that's what marks like a really good favorite of mine, because I rated Dreams Lie Beneath and Year of the Reaper as 5 stars, but they're starting to get a little murky in my head. Only a Monster has definitely stuck with me the most out of all my fantasy books. So Only a Monster, if you haven't read it yet, because it was everywhere, is about a girl who finds out that she's a monster and her entire family is slaughtered, so she decides to go back in time to try and fix it. And that's kind of the basic plot line. She has an arch nemesis going on. She has someone who was an arch nemesis who's now helping her reluctantly. As really good romance, really good time travel plotline, which I normally hate, but she did really well. And it ended in a way that it could be a standalone. So if you don't like series, you could actually read it as a standalone. I wouldn't recommend it because the romance is definite, like it has its own self-contained plot basically in the first one, kind of. There's a little things left undone, but if you really don't want to read a sequel to that book, you don't have to. I'm going to because it's going to be all about the romances. So, and I love romance. The romances are romances are so good in this book. So if you like a good romance, I would suggest this series. I cannot wait for the second one to come out. I'm just holding my breath for that one. So very excited about that one. Love that one. My favorite romance of the year, and I've read quite a few. Runner-up would be The Spanish Love Deception, but just edging it out, because I think the writing is better and I think the romance is better, is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, I think. It's such a beautiful book. Oh my gosh, I loved that book. I think in my wrap-up I talked about, in my May wrap-up I talked about it. I absolutely adored that book. It was a 5-star for me, obviously. It's one of my favorites. But the romance just felt so real. That's why I think I liked it so much, is I didn't feel like there was no insta love going on to me. Natural chemistry is a thing. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely loved it. All the characters, it was great. highly, highly, highly recommend that romance. It is so much fun, and it's got a lot of hype going on. Like, every time I watch a video, I feel like that book is brought up and everyone loves it. So it is not just me. Also, the lighting is going to be a little bit wonky because I'm filming this early in the day and I don't have my like ring light plugged in because I didn't feel like having it staring straight in my eyes. So it's gonna be a little wonky probably. Anyway, last in the best books of the year, thriller / horror, because I read a lot of thrillers and I've picked up a couple more horror this year than usual, but it's not enough to have like its own category. And I picked Hidden Pictures. Oh, that was, again, I just talked about that. I think I just put out a review for that. It's a fantastic book. I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. Highly recommend it for thriller readers and horror readers. It's got everything in it. It's so good. Highly recommend. It's about a babysitter who is sober for 18 months and needs a job, and she ends up babysitting for this wealthy family, and things just start getting super weird in the house. The kid starts acting weird, and the book is filled with the kids' drawings, and it is so good and creepy and thrillery and mysterious, and it's fantastic. It's got everything in it. Okay, next we're going to be talking about best sequel you've read so far in 2022. So I actually haven't read that many sequels. When I was going through my list, I realized that the only sequels I've read are like, I'm working my way through like the Temperance Brennan books, so I've read one of those. Those are good, but I don't know. For me, those are just like my cozy mysteries, and I don't really talk about those on the channel because to me, those are separate from anything. I rate them separately than my other books because I'll rate some of those 5 stars, but they're not 5 stars compared to my like fantasy or thriller 5 stars. It's a different type of 5 star because it's the vibe that I feel off of it. But I really haven't read that many sequels. I have read a ton of standalones this year and a bunch of beginning of series. I've started a lot of new series this year, and that's awesome, but I also have a lot of series I need to finish. Like, I thought I was getting through more than I did, and I have not. So my favorite sequels from this year, first one we're going to be talking about is Clockwork Prince. Anything I read by Cassandra Clare is a 5 star pretty much. I love it. I did not rate this one a 5 star because I don't love the love triangle in it. I know a lot of people love the Infernal Devices series, but I actually prefer the Mortal Instruments so far. I have not finished the 3rd Infernal Devices book yet though, so I can't like 100% say I like Mortal Devices better or Mortal Instruments better, but pretty sure I like TMI better. But they're both really great, and I love Cassandra Clare's writing, and I love all of the relationships and all the people, and they're just fun. They're fun books. They're pretty dense, so they take me a while to get through because my attention span is very limited, and there's a lot of information she throws at you. So hopefully that's, well, we're going to talk about it later, but hopefully it's a book that I finish later in the year. That is the first one I'm going to talk about. The second best sequel that I read, I finally finished the Bonecryer's Moon whatever series. So I read Bonecryer's Dawn and I actually really enjoyed it. It was fun. I think I gave it a 4 stars. I liked the first book better. The second book had a lot of, I feel like it repeated a bunch of stuff from the first book, which was my like biggest issue with it. But I liked the romance in it. It was fun. It's just a fun book. Like, it's a fun fantasy book. If you want something that's not too serious, it's not going to take you a really long time, highly suggest that duology. It's a fun book. So that's pretty much it for the sequels because, like I said, those are pretty much like the only sequels that I actually read. The next category is new release you haven't read yet but want to. Ooh, I got a lot of those. I've narrowed it down to a few that I'm hopefully going to get to in the next couple of months because I'm so excited about these. But first is Stardust Thief. I just got this from, I think, oh gosh, Fairy Loot, I think. And their edition is so pretty. It's like that purple edition. Oh my gosh, I love it. But I plan to get to that because it's like almost like an Aladdin seeming-esque retelling, but it's 1001 Nights retelling. It just seems so cool and so different, and I'm really excited to read it. The next one that I'm really excited to read I actually got from an Unplugged book box, and it's The Improbable Magic for Cynical Witches. It's such a cute cover, like, and it's, I don't know, it's something about it is like perfect size, beautiful cover. I'm so excited about it. Still have no idea what it's about because I cannot remember what the synopsis was, but I'm super excited to read that. It's LGBTQ plus. I'm trying to read some LGBTQ plus for June, and I realized I've read most of them on my shelf, so I was trying to go through and finding some new ones. I'm trying not to buy any books though, so I'm trying to go through my shelf and be like, okay, what ones haven't I read yet that I have? So that's definitely one I'm like looking, because I'm like slowly compiling this list, even though it's mostly through June, so I really need to get a move on. So it's probably gonna be LGBTQ plus June and July. So we're just gonna extend it a month. The other book that I really, really want to get to, especially, again, I was thinking about reading it this month, but is the Agathas. I picked this up from Barnes & Noble because it said this is like Agatha Christie-esque, and I'm just like, yes. Yes, I love her. Absolutely yes. So it's just a murder mystery kind of thing where they just solve crimes. I mean, it's a cute young adult book. I am a little nervous about it because I tend to like young adult horror, but not young adult mystery as much. I like adult thriller and young adult horror. So it's a little complicated. I'm very specific. But it just looks too good to pass up. So I'm really, really excited about that one. There's definitely other ones that I want to read, but we're going to stick to those three because those are like the ones that are like right there that I can't stop thinking about. Ooh, so the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Oh, there's a book that I've been waiting for since the second book came out, and it is The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik, and oh my gosh, I cannot wait to read this book. I was a huge fan of A Deadly Education. It was everything I wanted. A Deadly Education is basically School of Magic, which I absolutely love that theme already, and then you add in deadly consequences for everything you do, and it almost read like an adult, like Harry Potter. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Everything is deadly and dangerous, and she's terrifying and morally gray, and she reminds me a little bit of me because I am a little bit standoffish when it comes to like meeting people. Once you get to know me, it's a lot better, but I get really nervous about meeting new people, so I have like and I look mean. Like I've been told many times by my professors as well when I was in college that I just look mean, so people don't approach me. So I definitely felt the angst from her when she was having a hard time making friends with people, because I get it a lot. But I just love her. I love her, and I love the main guy in it. He's so funny. It's just a great book. It's a great book. And then I read the second one, and the ending is a huge cliffhanger, and I screamed when I read the ending because I knew I wasn't going to get another book for a year. I was so mad. And this is also a series that I read with my husband, so my husband and I are obsessed with the series. I've read the first book, I think, 3 times. The second book I've read once, and it's actually on my list to read in August because the third book comes out September. So I want to have it like fresh in my mind. So I think I'm going to reread the first book in July, second book August, and then pick up the third book in September and read it with my husband. Oh man, we are so excited about that one. The next book is probably no surprise to anybody because everyone is super excited about it, but it is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, and oh my gosh, I freaked out when I heard that she was releasing this because These Violent Delights is one of my favorite series. It has everything I love in it. Oh my gosh, I absolutely adored that series, or duology. So when she said that she was going to release another one, I flipped out. I called my husband, who was busy at work, and I was like, you have to listen to me. I don't care what you're doing. I have to tell you what's happening. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that book. I would pretty much read anything Chloe Gong puts out at this point, and then she said she was having it in the same universe as These Violent Delights, and I was like, oh, definitely reading that the second it comes out. I'm probably gonna have a million copies of it because I already ordered the Fairy Loot copy, and I will not wait for the Fairy Loot copy to come out, so I'm definitely gonna be at the bookstore the day that book comes out. And of course, another not so big surprise, I am so excited for the end of this year. The Ballad of Never After is coming out by Stephanie Garber. I loved the first book. I was really nervous reading the first book, and I'm due to reread it because Caraval is one of my favorite series. The magic in that story, it's beautiful. And I had a rough relationship with that book because I loved the first book. I loved Scarlet. I loved it. And then we switched to Tella in the second book. And because you kind of are like made to kind of dislike Tella in the first book, I had a rough time with the second book, even though I ended up loving it. I was kind of like resisting it. And then by the time I got to finale, I was like, this is so good. I love this. I love everything. But my favorite character, so I always pick the wrong guy in books, which causes problems. I liked Jax. I feel like that's actually pretty common for the series, but I would have preferred Tella to be with Jax. Obviously not anymore because we got a whole series on him, but I absolutely adored the character of Jax and was devastated when she ended up picking Legend, and I was just like, oh, by the way, this is spoilers, but if you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? But I'll put a little spoilers thing down. Again, I love Jax, and I feel like he got robbed in this book in Caraval, and I felt so bad for him. But I absolutely adored his character. So when I found out that she was going to be making a new series all about Jax, I was like, oh my gosh. And I think I have 4 copies of the first book. Anyway, very excited about Ballad of Never After. I'm probably going to be picking up the first book again soon just to give it a reread because I love Jax. And I love Evangeline, so that was a pretty good main character. Ooh, okay, next question is, what was your biggest disappointment? This category makes me so sad because you never want to be like really excited for a book and then it turn out to be not fun, because it sucks. It sucks. And I think the biggest disappointment this year would have to be Book of Night by Holly Black. I still gave it 3 stars. I know a lot of people gave it 1s and 2s. I still semi-enjoyed the book. I liked the end. So I really didn't like 75% of the book. I liked a little section in the middle, and I liked a little section at the end. And I have a dedicated reading vlog short / book review. It was my first attempt at a reading vlog, and it was kind of a mess, but that's going to be coming out with my thoughts. But basically, I think the book is like a prequel. I don't want to say any spoilers for it. That's going to be in that reading vlog. But it reads like it's a prequel. It reads like it's supposed to come out after like the 3rd book to explain why everything happened in the actual series. That is my, again, hot take on that. I don't think this book should have come out first. I think a different book should have come out first, and then this one was released later as a prequel. An origin story, because it is an origin story. That's why it was so boring, because I didn't care anything about the characters. Characters were very flat. Didn't enjoy reading about them again until the end. And it was just, I was so upset about this book. I was so mad about it. So I still hope there's a second book, because it reads like it's supposed to be attached to a whole other series. So okay, I'm gonna stop talking about it before I get too into it, because I had a lot of thoughts about this. My next biggest disappointment is not a book from this year. It's just a book that took me 2 years to read, and it's King of Crows, the final book in the Diviner series. I hated the book. I liked the end, but I hated 95% of the book. It was trash. It was honestly absolute trash, and I'm sure it's another hot take, but I don't care. I hated that book. I thought it was the The Diviners for me was one of the best series starting out. The first 2 books were so good, and then it just absolutely went off the rails in the 3rd book. It was stupid what they did with it. It was bad writing, bad character development, and I have never been so mad about a book series in my life, but I should have expected it, because when I was younger, one of the series that I read that I felt the exact same way about was by Libba Bray, and it's like the Great and Terrible Beauty series. And it was a hot mess of a series. I don't even think I finished it because it just got so weird. And I don't know why she does that. I don't know why there are certain authors who just write a series and it's so good and then it gets weird. That's why King of Crows is my most disappointing, because that was one of my favorite series, The Diviners. And it just, I mean, it was awful. It was awful. I was so mad when I read that book. The next biggest disappointment, I have a whole book review about it, is Hide by Kirsten White. And that book makes me angry. Again, I talk about it in the review, but I don't actually rate it because I thought it was a young adult horror, which is why I was so excited. Because like I said, I tend not to like adult horror, and that held true, but I'm not alone. I thought I would be the only one who disliked it. Everyone disliked this book. It's just not good. It's just not very good. So I still have hope that it's not just me. Also, if you hear like snorting and snoring, my dog is laying like right here because he cannot leave me alone. And he just got groomed yesterday, so he's feeling extra clingy because he's naked now. So he gets upset. He's a Shih Tzu. And so he was very, very fluffy. And then yesterday they cut him for summer because it's like 100-something degrees here in Charlotte. Anyway, yeah, you can go to that review if you want to know more. I don't need to talk about that one anymore because I was just very upset about that one. And there was a lot she could have done differently. It had a really good premise, but it was not executed well. And my last book of the year that was really disappointed, there's more, but these were like the most I was disappointed. The Book of Cold Cases. I really love Simone St. James, and I hated this book. I was so bored for about 70% of the book. I didn't even like the ending. The ending didn't even make up for it. I didn't like the characters. It was just not a fun book to read. And I am not that hard to please when it comes to thrillers, and I didn't like it. That is saying something. I like most thrillers. They can be terrible and I'll probably end up liking them, but it was so boring that I had such a hard time getting through it. And it's so sad because her last 2 thrillers are some of my favorite thrillers. The Broken Girls is probably my favorite thriller of all time so far, up to now. I adore that book. It's phenomenal. So I was so excited about Book of Cold Cases, and it just wasn't it. It wasn't it. It was so boring. She tried to do like the podcast thing, so it's like about a blogger who goes and investigates this lady killer, whatever her name was, and it was just boring. It was so boring. Yeah. I think if she had turned it into a horror, it would have been good, because the scary parts, because if you don't know anything about Simone St. James, she writes thrillers that have supernatural elements, but they're not horror. Like the supernatural elements are never really that scary. This one actually was kind of scary. The supernatural moments in the Book of Cold Cases were the best parts. So I feel like she should have just written a horror and like leaned into that, and it would have been actually probably really good. But anyway, we're gonna move on because it's just making you can tell like the energy of the video is just like gone down, because I'm just like I'm so sad. Favorite new author. I feel like I don't have one because I haven't read, I don't know, like I feel like when I pick a favorite new author, it's got to be an author I've read a couple books from. So I feel like someone who could potentially be a new favorite author is Rebecca Ross. She wrote Dreams Lie Beneath, and I have 2 of her other books, I think A River Enchanted and Sisters of Song and Sword, something like that. So I have 2 in the wings waiting. So she could become a new favorite author, maybe next year, if I read the other 2 books and they're really good. But that's about it. Maybe Lore Olympus, the author, Rachel Smythe, because I do absolutely love Lore Olympus and I'm continuing reading it. So I think the closest thing to a new favorite author would be Rachel Smythe. But because, she hasn't done anything other than Lore Olympus that I read, it's difficult to say favorite new author. Next category is new fictional crush. Oof, I got 2 and they actually have the same name. So I would definitely say my number 1 from this year is Aaron Oliver from Only a Monster. I love me a morally gray guy who turns soft for the girl. I eat that up. It's why I love the Darkling and Shadow and Bone, even though he's definitely evil. I still adore him. But Aaron Oliver wins because I love that trope. I just love mean boy or supposedly mean on the wrong side of the tracks kind of guy who turns out to be totally different than you think he is. I love that trope. And following along with that, Aaron Blackford from The Spanish Love Deception. Oh my gosh, he's same idea. Very stoic, seems to be a mean guy. Turns out he's been pining for her the whole time, which I love pining books. I love it. So those are my 2 newest crushes. There's definitely more. I love me some bookmen, but those 2 definitely win. Newest favorite character for this year. Probably my favorite character is Addie LaRue. I love her, and I think she has an unfair advantage because the whole book is literally, the purpose is talking about her life. So you learn so much about her. It's hard to forget Addie LaRue. She was a real person. She would walk, if she was a real person who was not forgotten every time she walked into a room, she would walk in a room, everyone would look at her. I mean, she is just hard to forget, and I love her about it though. Like, she's not stuck up or anything because she's forgotten so often that she's just a lovely character, and I absolutely adore Addie LaRue. I also absolutely love Clementine from Dreams Lie Beneath. It was my runner-up for favorite book of the year, and she's if she wants something, she's going for it. I love her. She probably rubs some people the wrong way because she is very, like, in your face about things, but I just love her as a character. She's a very strong female character who doesn't let anyone tell her what to do. Yeah, I just really like her. And my last one is actually a pairing, and it's Alexis and Daniel from Part of Your World. I loved both of these characters, especially together, because the reason I love that book so much is it shows romance in a real way. Like, if you have a really good relationship, you bring out the best in each other, and they definitely 100% bring out the best in each other, and I love that. So them together is why I'm putting them as my new favorite character together, because they are unstoppable together and I love them. Book that made me cry. Oof, this one's tough because I tend to avoid books that make me cry. So the point of the books that I picked is not to cry. Like they're just fantasy books, but you cry because they have such an impact at the end. So I do not read books that I know are going to on purpose make me cry. And obviously one of those books is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I sobbed like a flippin' baby at multiple points in this book. Taz, you're being gross. He does this thing where he gets anxious and he licks his face a lot. And now he's coughing. Dude. So he's like a 12-year-old Shih Tzu. If he lays a certain way, I've had his doctors look at all this stuff. If he lays a certain way, he'll start choking. So you just have to like roll him over. I'm like, what the heck? It's like he pinches something. You good? You good? So he's used to it by now. If he starts coughing, he'll look at me and I'll just shove him over. And he's like, okay. So I don't know. His vets have looked at it. They're like, there's nothing going on. I don't know. Anyway, The Life of Addie LaRue. Sobbed like a baby. If you've read it, you know. If you liked it, I feel like people who did not like it would not cry. But yeah, my husband came home and was like, oh my god, did somebody die? And I was like, hey book. So, and then the other one that I actually cried was Only a Monster. I had a real connection to this book. So at the very end, there's something really important that happens, and I mean, I felt the loss of the main character, which is really impressive. Like, it hurt reading the end of that book. And I don't think I picked up a book for a while after that one because there was like a hole in my chest when I read it, and it hurt. Like I hurt for her, and that's really hard to get me to feel because I'm not a crier. I will avoid crying at all capabilities. The only time I cry is if I get angry enough. I'm an angry crier, which makes me really mad. Then I cry more, because if I stand up to somebody and I get like worked up, I'll start crying, and then it's like, I gotta cut this out. It's not effective. But oof, I felt Only a Monster. It's another one that I plan to reread because I just loved it so much. Next category, books that made you happy, and that's definitely The Spanish Love Deception. I was screaming and excited and so happy during this book. There really wasn't any point that was I mean, this book's point is to make you happy. It is a perfect beach summer read. Highly suggested if you want something that's just gonna make you feel warm and fuzzy. So the next category is beautiful books, and I have quite a few of them. We're gonna start off with the books that just like, they're normal cover, like they're not a special edition. But I picked up, actually physically went and got these, which was a pain, but I picked up The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I don't even know if I'm gonna read it, but I love this cover. It's a special edition off of like Amazon. You can go pick it up. It's just, I mean, the blueprint idea, it's just so beautiful. And the book is about like an owner of like a Disney World-esque world, whatever, theme park. So I just love this cover. Like, I'm not a big romance smut reader. I definitely like cleaner romances. So I don't even know if I'm gonna read this, but I had to have this for the cover. It is probably one of my favorite covers that I've ever seen. I'm going to read it, but even if I don't like it, I'm still gonna keep it because it's just, I mean, this is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. They did a fantastic job picking this cover. My other favorite book that's just its regular cover is Improbable Magic for Cynical Witches. There's something about it I just absolutely adore. It is so beautiful, and it's a tiny little book, and it's just, there's something so magical about it, and I love this book, and just holding it makes me happy, and I cannot wait to read this one. Whoever designed it is a genius, and oh my gosh, they need to do more book covers like this. It is so beautiful. Okay, on to my special editions. I don't know which ones I want to do first. Let's do this one. I audibly like gasped when I saw this book, and it is Thorn, and it is a Fairy Loot edition. And even seeing the mock-up, because I mean, you even see the mock-up before I ordered it, but it's just, it's so beautiful. It's also very like small. I don't know. It is just an absolutely beautiful book, and I was so happy that I ended up buying it. But it's gold foil, turquoise and rose gold, and it's just, oh my gosh, it is beautiful. These sprayed edges are perfect. The inside of the book, more foiling. It's just, this is probably the prettiest book that I own, in my opinion. I got a lot of them, but this one, the color schemes are just perfect. Fairy Loot, again, has another one of my favorites that I got this year, and it is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I mean, oh my gosh, it is beautiful. These are my favorite sprayed edges that I've ever had. This book wins for the sprayed edges. They are stunning. I love them. And then I love the color change they made to the front of the book. I think the turquoise is perfect, and I just, again, absolutely beautiful book. So happy to have this on my shelf. I display this one upstairs because number one, I love the book, and it's just so beautiful. And my last one, and kind of my saddest one, is from Alcrate, and it was my biggest surprise because I kind of saw the mock-ups, but I didn't realize the details in the mock-up. So it is Book of Night by Holly Black. This is easily my favorite edition of the book, and there's something about it that just gives me such good vibes. And to me, this also represents the inside of the book the best. Like this, they're looking for a book, and this is kind of what I picture the book to look like. And they did something different on the back than they do on any other copies, and it's just, and the black edges, normally I don't love black edges, but the black edges work perfect for this book, and it's just beautiful. It has like fog and clouds, they're on the cover, and it's just, I adore this copy of the book, and unfortunately I don't adore what's inside it as much, but it's so pretty, and they even have it on the side. It's just, this is a beautiful book. And the last category for our video is going to be, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Oh, I got a couple, and they are series, some of them. So my biggest, the one I don't want to finish the most, but I really need to get through it, is the Serpent and Dove series. So I have been reading Blood and Honey, the second book, for probably a year and a half now. It just sits on my side table, and if I don't have anything else to read, I'll pick it up and read like 4 pages and then put it back down. I don't know why I'm like this. I loved the first book, and when the second book came, I had ordered it from Beacon Box. I ordered their special edition, and I think I ordered a special edition from them. Might have been Gods and Monsters. I don't remember. I think I ordered the special edition Blood and Honey from them or somebody. So I waited, and the longer I waited, the more awful things I heard about the book, and the more it just completely turned me off from reading it. And so I just keep putting it off. And what I've read, I think I've read 100 pages. It's boring. It's so boring. So I just don't want to read 500-page book and then have to read Gods and Monsters, which might also be boring. So I'm causing myself more pain by either not DNFing it, or because I'm not going to DNF it. I know I'm not going to, because I love the first book, so I want to finish it. If I start a series, I'm probably going to finish it. I just need to pick it up and just read it, but I'm just drawing it out, and it's making it so much worse. So I want to try and finish at least Blood and Honey by the end of this year. Hopefully both of them, but I can't make any promises. The next book that I really need to finish is Court by Tracy Wolff. It is, I think, the 4th book in the Crave series. I don't absolutely love where this book headed. I really, really liked the first book, and to me it kind of, I can't even say it went downhill, because I liked the second book as well. I just have a lot of mixed feelings about it, because it feels like an angsty CW show. If this doesn't become a CW show, I would be shocked, but it feels that way, and I don't know how to feel about it, because it's so frustrating, and all the books are so long. Like, they're easy to get through, they're very highly spaced, but they're so long. I think it's like a 900-page book or something like that. And it's just because I didn't absolutely, can you stop? You're being gross. I love you, but you're being kind of gross. Because I didn't absolutely love the third one, I'm not like super excited about this one. So, and I feel like you have to be excited to read a 800-page book, even if it's like easy to read. So Court is on my list as well. You cannot climb into my lap right now. Oh my gosh. I don't know what his deal is today. You know what? Because of that, come here. Hi. Yeah, he's in a bad mood today. He gets in bad moods. He gets in bad moods and then just wants attention, but wants like his level of attention, because he doesn't like being held that much, but he wants to be as close to you as possible. Like, he has to be touching you at all times. He's very specific what he's okay with. So that is all that I'm going to be talking about today. And like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about my picks. And I will see you guys in the next video.